We're live from Las Vegas, celebrating 10 years of reInvent. I'm Melissa Perrin-Cheryl. What does it take to lead marketing for all AWS customers? The ever self-deprecating Quinn spoke with Rachel Thornton, the actual CMO of AWS.
Welcome to Opinions My Own. I'm Chief Cloud Economist Quinn of the Duckbill Group. Now, my day job is at the consultancy, fixing large companies' large AWS bills. But I have a side project that got a little bit of traction, which is the Last Week in AWS newsletter, where I gather all the news every week from AWS's ecosystem and then gently and lovingly make fun of it because of a number of personality problems that I bring manifest and basically have to embarrass myself with. My guest today is AWS CMO Rachel Thornton. Rachel, thank you for joining me today.
You are welcome, Corey.
So on Twitter, I've periodically described myself as the head of AWS Marketing. You're AWS's actual CMO. Which Amazonian leadership principle is most responsible for you not deciding to have me killed?
I'm not going to have you killed. Actually, I like the fact that first and foremost, you're a customer. So I'm always interested in what customers have to say. Always interested in what Corey has to say. I think that it's important to listen always, sort of whether it's customers across the industry, our partners. That's a huge component of what marketing is, as I'm sure you know. You do a lot of listening.
Oh yes, public listener is not a job description like public speaker is, but I feel like it should be.
Yes. So listening, a critical skill, across AWS, because we're customer obsessed, across Amazon, because we're customer obsessed, is always about listening to customers. Every day, sort of when I come to work and I think about how are we helping customers, what do customers need, what are they saying, what are we hearing about, and then how can we think big on their behalf? Like, what are the things we can innovate for? Obviously, there's a whole product team building products, but interestingly enough, in the marketing organization, we are also trying to figure out what are the things we can build to do a better job engaging customers, educating customers, sort of driving awareness of AWS. So whether it's an event product, like a new event we come up with, or a new campaign, a new website, all sorts of things, we're always thinking about how can we sort of build things to help educate customers and help engage with customers better. So I think that's where the think big comes in. And then learn and be curious. I'm always interested in not only when I hear from customers what they're doing or how they're using us, diving a little deeper onto that and then figuring out, great, what's that use case? Or that sounds like a great story. How can we help them tell it more broadly? So I think that's critical too.
Well, that's a way more in-depth and thoughtful answer than what I would have said. Frugality. It turns out there's no compression algorithm for experience. Skilled assassins are really expensive, and you don't want to botch that with an amateur. So yeah, I like your answer a fair bit better.
Thank you.
As we look at the history of AWS, it started off in beta with the first service being SQS. And that's great. Who wants to buy a message queue? The obvious response was, what's a message queue for most of us? And in time, then S3 came out, which was the first generally available service. So if I get the order wrong, I will get letters, and no one wants that. And then EC2, which is something most people could wrap their heads around, and so on, and so on, and so on, until now you're at a point where your product offerings don't really fit into one person's head anymore the way that they once did. How have you found that telling the story of what AWS is and who its customers are has evolved over the last, 16 years?
It's a really good question. And I actually sometimes look at it a little differently rather than what's sort of everything. I tend to think of it as I'm thinking about a customer and what they're trying to do, maybe what industry they're in, what problem they're trying to solve, then what are the services we bring to bear or the products we bring to bear to help that? What I love about the breadth and depth of the portfolio, AWS's portfolio, is looking at customers. It really is thinking, hey, a customer's come to us with this challenge or this problem. What can we do to help them with it? And it really is taking a customer view and working backwards. That's what I want to say. Working backwards. So I think that innovation is what sort of fuels that growth. But it really is, you can look at or have a conversation with the customer. So maybe you're talking to a healthcare provider. Maybe we're talking to Cerner, for instance. And they can say, we love transcribe and here's how we would use it, or we love Redshift and here's how we would use it, or we have a challenge with this. Have you guys looked at it? What do you think? What are you building? And so I think it's less about here, let us kind of give you all 200 plus services, and more about what's the problem you're trying to solve, or what's the opportunity you see, and how can we help you with it? And here's what we have that we think could fit to that, or that's a good piece of feedback, or that's a good actually input for us to think, what's the next thing we want to develop?
One thing that I have been able to get away with, for lack of a better term, is that when I do my last week in AWS roundup, I can say basically anything, because the risk that I have to manage is incredibly small. A couple of handwritten apology letters to several of my clients, and I'm mostly done, is sort of the worst case scenario in many respects.
Did I get an apology letter?
Oh, it is in the post, absolutely. Singing Telegram will deliver it. On the other side of it, though, is I don't run anyone's production infrastructure. You do, for governments, for very large companies. And a lot of those companies may as well have an official motto of, that wasn't funny. And as a result, it is amazing to me that you are able to say anything in a world where someone, it seems, is always going to take umbrage in some direction about a thing that you have said. How can you market effectively when your customer base is B2B, but also more or less every company out there?
I think it's a good question. I think for any company, I think if you are straightforward and you are factual, and you present the information in a way that is truthful, honest, etc. I think my experience has been people will take that as it is. I think when you get into the realm of exaggeration, or maybe being incredibly forward-looking, then you can get into a little bit of trouble. But I feel like as a whole, Amazon is just very straightforward in their communications. And I think we try to be straightforward with, here's what we have, here's what it does, here's customer segment we think it would be ideal for, let's talk about what it is, but then let's more importantly kind of hear from our customers, what are they using it for, how do they want to use it? I do think that you always have to ask yourself, what am I really trying to say? When we build, so when my team builds, whether it's a campaign or an event idea or an advertise, whatever it is, we always ask ourselves, what have we heard from customers about this? What is it we want to say to customers? How do we want to make sure it's resonating? How do we want to optimize, test it, change it if it isn't? But just really look at it and really go through it. Like I think you know this, we have very much a doc writing culture, which I totally appreciate, because when you have to write something and put your ideas down on paper and really discuss them in a room, it helps, I think, you do a much better job with honing and refining and getting to the final product that is good, that is crisp, that is succinct, and that sort of communicates what you want it to communicate. I just think that's important, but I think, say you do put something out there and you're like, all right, that didn't work. So we are honest, we always are like, hey, did this work or did it not? We internally don't, I won't swear on the camera, but internally, we always like, if this isn't working, let's fix it. Let's not worry about, hey, it didn't work, where did we mess up? It's like, it's not working, let's quickly fix it. Then we can do a debrief on, okay, how do we, what went wrong there? But we're always looking at, how do we get something, how do we learn fast, how do we fail fast in a way, make mistakes fast, and then optimize and keep going. And I think that helps, or is really what informs us being able to communicate and to be able to communicate effectively, and where it's not fixing it quickly.
Back in college, you studied Egyptology,
I did.
which is, among other things, includes hieroglyphics, a logographic language, the effective representation of complex ideas through pictures. And then you went to work somewhere that is explicitly not a PowerPoint company. How big of a career misstep was this?
Actually, the other thing I studied in college, by the way, was English literature. I know, it's funny. So here I am, English and Egyptology. I'm sure no one thought I would ever get a job, but I did, so exciting.
Doing icon designs for architecture diagrams. There we are.
Yeah, there we go. But no, I actually think this is amazing. I love coming to work every day. I love my job. And I do think that the English major in me loves the fact that I can write longhand 6 pages. It reminds me of all the papers I ever wrote in school. But I really enjoy that. And I really enjoy, I think I always enjoyed marketing. Like, I don't know if you had asked me all those years ago, do you see yourself as a marketing person? I would have said, mostly I just want to get through college. But I enjoy marketing. I enjoy the aspect of it, which is really, what a customer's trying to do, how can we help them do it, and really kind of digging in on problems. I like complex problems to solve. So I don't think it was a career misstep at all. Actually, I really love this.
When you talk to young kids, my oldest is nearly 5, and you ask them what they want to be when they grow up, they have great answers. Firefighter, they want to be a sanitation engineer, they want to be an astronaut. I've never yet heard someone in that age range say, I want to be a chief marketing officer, preferably of a sprawling web services platform.
Right.
At what point did you decide that this was what you wanted to be?
So it was interesting. My first job out of college was in marketing. It was a field marketing specialist. I was working for Microsoft. But I really enjoyed it because I enjoyed, like, being out there, being with customers, but also kind of thinking about, hey, what would be the way you would talk about something to make it appealing or make it interesting or make it engaging to another person? And I think, you know, marketing is so much education, but it's also, I'm telling you something in a way that you get it, you see how it would be useful for you, and you want to find out more about it. So I think that I just found that very interesting, and then I have actually always done this. Like, I've always done marketing in some form or fashion for a technology company, except for, interestingly, 2 years when I worked for the retail side of Amazon.
Fantastic. That was much more in the hieroglyphic direction then.
Yeah.
Archaeology in one of the fulfillment centers. How long has this been here? Yeah.
It's true. Yes, I worked on the Prime team when I first came to Amazon.
It's been an interesting ride watching Amazon grow from where it was to where it is. And the real question, of course, is where it's going, and I think that's one of those, let's find out as we get there. No one trusts people who predict the future. If they're right, even then, it's, well, you had inside information. Or
Right,
whatnot.
exactly.
Recently this year, there was probably the most interesting service launch of any AWS service that I've ever seen. And it started with a tweet from Twilio's Joe Nash talking about AWS Infinidash. Mm-hmm. And what made that so interesting is that the service didn't exist. Right. Now, with the hundreds of services you have, we have long since crossed a Rubicon where I can talk incredibly convincingly about AWS services that aren't real, and AWS employees will not pick up on it because no one has them all in their head. But as people caught on to the joke and started talking about it, it was fascinating to me to see what this platonic ideal of an AWS service, which again, does not exist, what people started saying about it. What did you learn from what people were saying and how they viewed a mythical service?
So I think there's a couple things I thought was totally fascinating about that. I think, one, the power of language and the power of a convincing storyteller to make you believe. So if you think about that, granted, 140 characters at a time, but it's storytelling at its best, right? I've come up with an idea. I've started to talk about the idea. I've used language, and I've talked about it in a way that makes you believe, right? So one, hats off to that. I love that. But two, I think it's interesting that over the years, AWS has been such a part of so many people now and how they live and what they experience and how they do their jobs, that you could have someone who's like, here, let me tell you a story, but it'll be very similar to what we're doing. So I actually think it's amazing to see the growth of the company and sort of the way it's now. Really, I don't want to use the term ubiquitous, but I want to say it's very common in lots of different places. So I found both those things interesting, but I also think that, again, part of listening to customers is listening to them wherever they are. And so when they were talking about Infinidash, I was sort of like, that's interesting. I wonder, maybe we should look at that. But like, I'm sure lots of people think, hey, I've heard something interesting from a customer, no matter where they are, no matter what form. This could be interesting. Someone's talking about this. How do we want to think about this?
From my perspective, it was fun to watch, and I like to periodically start reminding people this was in fact a joke. They weren't missing anything, and I think the time for it to end was right around when it did, which is about when a journalist reached out and said, I'm working on a story about Infinidash, but I'm really having a hard time understanding what it is. I can't find the launch blog post. Can you help me understand it? It was, okay, let's not willfully contribute to the spread of misinformation. Okay, this is a joke. Let's explain the joke to people so they can participate in it. But it was just an absolute blast. There are companies out there that would love for even a tenth as much attention for, things they've built that exist.
Yes.
The fact that so many people were able to participate in it on some level feels like a testament to the brand that AWS has built.
Yes, and absolutely. And I think we are all grateful every day. I know I am. I know my team. And we're just grateful every day that, this is where we are. That it's exciting to work here. I love the pace of it. I love working with the people. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's like a lot of places would be like, oh, that would be awesome. And so we're cognizant of that, and we are grateful.
So we're here at reInvent, and what reInvent is on some level winds up differing based upon who you are and on some level where you're sitting. You have keynotes in which there are veritable fire hoses of releases thrown at people. Did you catch all that? You'd better. There's a partner expo where there are, from some folks' perspective, this is a chance to learn about new offerings, and from other more cynical perspectives, this is a chance to stock up on t-shirts again. It really depends on where you land on that.
Right.
There's a replay party, there's a bunch of certification challenges, et cetera, et cetera. What is reInvent other than, it's the AWS conference, but that answers the question without answering the question. What's the core of it?
First and foremost, it's an education event. So it's an education event for our cloud community. It's not a sales and marketing event, which I like. Having done other conferences, I am always and continually impressed with how we really focus on how do we educate folks. So keynote, fire hose, understand, but know that after the keynote, there will be a lot of sessions on what was introduced so you can learn about it. But we really actually focus on how do we make sure we're providing, everyone who attends the best chance to get educated in a way they'd like. So we think different, we think, is it a session? Is it a chalk talk? Is it a builder session? Is it a hackathon? Is it security jam? Is it even just chatting in the hallway with the other people you meet? So we're always looking at, hey, what did our customers say about the education opportunities, the sessions, like the formats that we gave them? What did they like? What do they want to see more of? What do they want to see less of? Over the years, every year we actually spend a lot of time talking to customers as they're on site, right? So whether it's informally as the team moves around the event space, the campus, we do focus groups as well. Afterwards, we call customers up. We say, hey, what'd you think? What do you think about this? And then as we're developing new sort of kind of content modalities, so for example, for a while, we liked the sessions. Sometimes we'd have lots of people in a room, big sessions. Sometimes you'd had smaller sessions. But one of the pieces of feedback we're getting from customers is they wanted a chance to bring kind of their issue they wanted to solve and have it in a way where they could talk to a couple people, they could talk to an expert, they could maybe do some whiteboarding. So that's how we got the idea of these chalk talks that we do. The builder session was really how do you get hands-on with actually building this, the service, this app, whatever it was. They would come with, again, hey, here's the thing I want to build. But customers have really loved that because it was like, we started with sessions, we heard you wanted more hands-on, or we heard you wanted more small group settings, so now we've built those. And then every year we're like, okay, what's sort of the next way we can do it? It was really interesting. So doing this virtually, doing reInvent virtually was interesting because it was really thinking we have content, we have all these sessions. When you do it in 1 week, so when we do it in Las Vegas, as you can imagine, because you've been there, you don't have to imagine, you've experienced it.
Oh yes, I experienced it for 7 days that feels like 70.
But we have the ability there to say, okay, we're going to have a bunch of session rooms in the Aria or in the Venetian or in the MGM Grand. When you're doing it virtually, you think, well, I still have the 7 day or the 5 days that I would normally have, except I now have to figure out how do I want to engage people with the content. And when we did it last year, we actually thought we have a lot of content, and we were trying to figure out, is it just 5 days? Do we do it for a little longer? We ended up doing it for 3 weeks. But one of the pieces of feedback that we got from customers was they liked the sessions, it was good learning, but the hands-on stuff was, and it's just perforce harder in, kind of a virtual environment. We did some things, we experimented with some things, but I think we learned a lot about scale and how we really loved that format for scale. People really actually loved the ability to come watch sessions, see sessions, to access them. Everyone could go, right?
Yes, there were no geographical boundaries to it. If
Exactly.
you have an internet connection, that was all it took.
So, like this year, we're keeping, we'll have it be in person. We'll also have a virtual one. We'll have a hybrid event. But we did realize, there's, for all the excellent things that we love in virtual that we'll keep, there's things that people really do love with in person, which is really the hands-on learning. That it's the, I come to you, I sit down with like maybe half a dozen people in my Chalk Talk with an SA, and then it's like, hey, here's what I'm trying to do, and then everybody, for that period of time, for the time the Chalk Talk's happening, is really communicating and collaborating on that problem. It's just harder to do virtually. So I think we learned a lot about what are the great things about virtual that we'll want to keep, but then customers they really like the in-person.
The thing that made me fall in love with technical conferences was the hallway track, where you just casually happen to mention over the course of a conversation what you're working on, and someone in the small group you're talking to pipes up with, oh yeah, I just finished that. You're going to try this, it's going to break. You're going to try this other thing, it's going to break worse, and then this is what you're going to do instead. And that casual 30-second answer just saved 4 months of work.
Right, exactly.
It's harder to do that in a virtual sense just because there's a higher degree of friction to communicating.
Yep. No, it's very true. We when we talk to customers, they say that it's so valuable, the hallway track, as you call it, to like talk to people. And actually, it's fascinating when we're on site at the event, as we walk the halls, basically, my team and I. You'll see so much energy in these hallways. Even when the sessions are happening, there'll still be people in the hallways kind of talking. So it really is, I love that about it, and I know customers love that about it.
It's one of the things that I think we've lost in the constant stream of virtual events. It's like, oh, it's like a Zoom meeting, only it's a different Zoom meeting this time, and I don't have to talk, or in my case, I don't get to talk. It changes things, and I'm glad to see that we're starting to open back up.
Yes. No, we definitely are. I actually, like I said, we've heard more from customers that they're getting back to in person. We're seeing that too. Like, I think it's Web Summit in Lisbon that was just happening recently. I want to say last week they had 40,000 people in person. So you're really seeing a return to that. So.
Yeah, this is smaller than most reInvents have been previously. I only started really paying attention to this stuff and attending. My first year was 2017, and even since then, it's grown significantly. But again, it feels a little smaller this year, which is on some level appreciated.
Yes.
It was too sprawling, too big. I'm always missing something. I still have that, but it's less of it, and that's fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to be on your side of the world than it is on mine. Naming a service is a massive undertaking and a difficult challenge. Trademark law, restrictions, making sure that there aren't conflicts, et cetera, making sure it explains what's going on. And it takes remarkably little effort to go on Twitter and say, that's a bad name.
I didn't know that you were a fan of Look Out for Equipment.
I loved all of the Look Out for Equipment, for metrics, for monitoring. It's great. It's just naming them after signs in fulfillment centers of, all right, what's next? It's at some point you're going to have one of wash hands before leaving restroom, which frankly is good advice for everyone, but weird name for a service. But it is easy to fall into the misunderstanding trap that I somehow hate AWS. Given the sheer amount of effort I put into tracking the entire ecosystem, if I didn't actually like the company and its products, I really need a diagnosis and probably an intervention to go along with it. Just because 90 to 95% of what you folks do is great. The missing 5 to 10% is, first, divinely and consistently dissatisfied customers. Apparently, it's what we do. And on the other, it's also great. It's just that missing gap. And it can be hilarious viewed through a certain lens, which Again, doesn't work when you are the company making these things. Of, hey, we built this thing, now we're going to make fun of it. It turns out is one of the more demoralizing things you can do to the team of people that built that thing. But it also isn't constructive and erodes confidence in a product.
But at the same time, though, like I said, hearing what customers think is important. It's critically important to our business. And it doesn't have to be the customer has to, couch it in the right terms or not. Like, that's not what that's about. It's like the unvarnished feedback matters deeply, because if we don't get the unvarnished feedback, if we aren't always listening and always taking this information in, we won't get it right. We will miss things. And even if we don't get it right the first time, it's all right. Just say, yeah, it was kind of funny. And there is a lot of things that go on, by the way, as we do the naming, as we do the marketing, as we do all these things. And the best thing in the world is to get all this feedback, because everybody has everybody has blind spots, right? So it's like, I didn't see it that way. I thought completely differently. But now somebody's giving you feedback, you're like, I see. So I actually think it's good. Is it sometimes a little hard? Yes, but it doesn't make it any less than critically important to hear and to get and to keep getting in order to keep getting better.
It's really fascinating to watch from the outside. If you were to tell me to identify the common thread between all of the AWS folks that I encounter, it doesn't matter what I'm doing, whether it's a setup for a joke or an actual problem I'm seeing in the market or trying to configure a service, whenever I explain the problem I'm having, the answer is always the same, and it's tell me more. And very rarely, when I show the Byzantine architecture I have built around this, the answer is, okay, tell me less. I mean, there's going to be an asterisk next to customer obsession. It's like, except that one, which,
right.
fair, I do call it down upon myself. But there's always been an urge, a striving drive to improve the customer experience for everyone. Back when nobody knew who I was and didn't find me worth listening to, which I call most of my life growing up, but that's neither here nor there. The people who always did listen, always did care, were Amazonians whenever I encountered them. And it's hard not to be impressed by that.
No, I think that's very true. And I'm glad that comes through. But no, I do think it's true. I think we always want to know, like, tell me more about it. What did you think about that? Tell me why. Because the more information.
Why do you believe that's a database?
Right.
Like, well, I have problems. We've covered this. Yeah.
But the more information, the more we can learn. Like, it is what makes it all not only worthwhile, but it fuels innovation. It fuels the development. Is just hearing from customers and working backwards from customers.
I just want to thank you for suffering my slings and arrows right now specifically, but in a more general sense, as I'm sniping from the cheap seats for the past 5 years now. It really does mean a lot that I continue to be able to have conversations with people at AWS and not receive a cease and desist.
This is a lot of fun, Corey. I'm really glad we did it.
Me too. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
I'm Chief Cloud Economist of the Duckbill Group, Corey Quinn. My guest has been AWS CMO Rachel Thornton, and this is Opinions My Own.
AWS has truly evolved. Thanks to both Corey and Rachel. I'm Melissa Perrin-Cheryl, and you're watching Live from reInvent.